survival of the Hawaiian language and culture has always been very important to me. Growing up, I was fortunate enough to be part of Hawaiian groups such as Namamu Wakamai and The Good Life with the Queen Liliuokalani Children's Center on Kauai and on Oahu. They taught me that Hawaiian language was the key to the survival of our culture, because without our language, we will have nothing. Hi, my name is Jennifer Tolentino, and today I'm going to talk to you about why the Hawaiian language should become a mandatory course in all Hawaii schools. So since the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy in 1893, the use of the Hawaiian language began to decline due to new foreign leaders banning all teachers from speaking and teaching Hawaiian language in schools. As Kanaka living in Hawaii, it is our kuleana, or our responsibility, to perpetuate the language of our ancestors, whether we are of Hawaiian ancestry or not. If we fail to do this, we will lose the true essence of our Hawaiian culture, and one day our islands will cease to have the spiritual connection and energy it once did. I'm a Hawaiian Studies major and have studied Hawaiian language in school for 4 years. In addition to this, I grew up dancing hula, which allowed me to learn the language from a different perspective, ultimately enhancing my knowledge or my understanding of its deeper meanings. Although I'm not 100% fluent, I feel that the knowledge I have gained and the passion I have for its survival allows me to share its importance with you. So in the next few minutes, I'll discuss 3 main points. First, I will talk about how Olelo Hawaii, or how Hawaiian language, became banned from the Hawaii school system. Second, I will talk about the solution, which involves sharing the success that current schools have had with teaching the Hawaiian language in their schools. And finally, I will discuss the many benefits of the Hawaiian language and how that will help perpetuate not only the language, but the culture as well. So let's start with how the Hawaiian language became banned from the Hawaii school system in the first place. So the problem of Hawaiian language not being a mandatory subject in Hawaii school system is widespread and far-reaching. Keeping it out of the school systems deprives all of Hawaii's children from learning more about the culture that they are growing up in. According to the Hawaiian State Department of Education, teaching and learning through the medium of Hawaiian language was banned in 1896 after the increase of foreign politics and economy. So the language was not heard in schools for the next 4 generations. Many Hawaiian elders talk about being punished if they were ever caught speaking Hawaiian in school, which caused many Hawaiians from speaking the language at all. So when the elders died, so did the language. So Hawaiian language is available as an elective course at some high schools today, but the only schools that require speaking fluently throughout the day are Hawaiian charter and immersion schools, and of course the nonprofit preschool Punana Leo. In my senior year of high school, I took a trip to Aotearoa, to New Zealand, with one of my Hawaiian groups, and we learned that it was mandatory for the native Maori children to attend a cultural school during their primary years to learn the language and traditions of the people. And I strongly believe this is a practice our state should adopt as well. So the decline of the Hawaiian language has been devastating to its people and to the islands. According to a paper written by Mark Warsher from the University of Hawaii and Keola Donahue from the University of Hilo, Hawaiian literacy flourished in the 19th century when Hawaii was an independent kingdom with parliamentary form of government. Dozens of newspapers were published, a number of religious literary works were translated to Hawaiian, and Hawaiians transcribed a wealth of traditions, or a wealth of traditional oral literature. And literacy rates were so high, they were the highest anywhere in the world. But at the same time, the Hawaiian people and their culture were being devastated by Western colonization. Diseases introduced by colonizers reduced the Hawaiian population from about 300,000 in 1778 to about 50,000 a century later. Traditional language and art forms such as the hula were repressed due to the pressure from the missionaries, who viewed these culture expressions as foul and adulterous. They also wrote that in the latter part of the 19th century, with American landowners strengthening their hold on the Hawaiian economy and a large number of agriculture workers being brought in from Asia, English gradually became the supplement to Hawaiian language, or to Hawaiian as a medium of instruction in the schools. So the coup de grace was delivered in 1893. By the 1893 U.S.-backed overthrow of the sovereign Hawaiian monarchy, and the forced annexation of Hawaii to U.S. territorial status 5 years later. The Hawaiian language was banned from the schools, and for all practical effects from society, under punishment of ostracization and beatings. As the number of pure Hawaiians diminished to 1 to 2% of the population, and with the Hawaiian language banned from schools, the language almost died out in the 20th century. By the 1980s, there were reportedly fewer than 2,000 native speakers of the language, with only a few dozen of them under the age of 18. So I can remember asking my dad as a child why he never learned how to speak Hawaiian language. And he said that it was because his grandparents never allowed any of the kids to learn Hawaiian, and the only time that he ever heard them speak was just amongst themselves, so with other elders or with other kupuna around them, but always in secret. So as you can see, the problem of Olelo Hawaii not being a mandatory course in the Hawaii school system is severe, and it requires our immediate attention. So now let's look at an effective solution to the problem. An overall solution to the problem should be to make a personal effort to save the Hawaiian language. So as I mentioned earlier, as Kanaka living in Hawaii, it is our kuleana, or our responsibility, to perpetuate the native language of our Hawaiian ancestors. A few months ago on the island of Maui, I listened to a panel of native Hawaiians who spoke on the 4 cornerstones that helped to plant the seeds of the Hawaiian Renaissance. And one of those speakers was Kumu Hokulani Holt, who spoke on Hawaiian immersion language programs. And the one thing she said that stuck with me was, it takes 1 word a day. If we can dedicate ourselves to learning 1 word a day, we are contributing to the perpetuation of the Hawaiian language. According to an article written by the Associated Press, critics have said that students could be held back by learning a language that is not viable in today's world. This, however, has been found to be untrue, because according to school officials, students in Hawaiian immersion schools have exceeded their peers in standardized English tests. So you can see that being educated in the language will not only contribute to its survival, but will ultimately help children to be better in school and to learn from a different perspective. Despite money also being a huge factor in this matter, there are things that we can do to make the Hawaii Department of Education and everyone else in Hawaii aware of the importance of the language becoming a mandatory course in schools. So we must take it upon ourselves to learn the language and encourage our keiki to learn it with us. We must be consistent with our learnings and our teachings, meaning that when we learn a Hawaiian word, we must be dedicated to using the word consistently in everyday conversations. And when we teach them to our children, we must encourage our children to continue using them as well and to not be ashamed. We must also support each other in the learning process rather than being judgmental. And finally, when an opportunity presents itself to learn, teach, or even fight for the language, we must be ready to do so and not be afraid or ashamed. By doing this, It will show the Department of Education in Hawaii and the Hawaii legislature how serious we are about having the language become a mandatory course in our schools. So now that you know what we can do to solve the problem, let's take a look at the many benefits you and your loved ones will experience as a result of taking action. The benefits of taking action on this matter goes far beyond the survival of the indigenous language. It will also assure a better education for our children. Learning the language also means learning how our ancestors interpreted the world during their time and how they used language to solve their problems and pass on their traditions. When children are introduced to different ways of thinking, it makes them better problem solvers. More children in Hawaii will have a better understanding and appreciation of Hawaiian culture, and it will encourage them to learn the culture and traditions of their people as well. So if they're Filipino or Chinese or Japanese and they're learning Hawaiian language and more about Hawaiian culture every day in school, this will encourage them to want to learn more about themselves as well and learn about more of their ancestry. And finally, the Hawaiian language will become a normalized language in Hawaii, meaning that you'll start hearing it in doctors' offices, in retail stores, at restaurants, in hotels, everywhere, not just in schools. If we don't take action, the Hawaiian language will one day die, and so will the culture. The spiritual beauty and the power of Hawaii will die. And lastly, the aloha spirit will die because no one will know what aloha means anymore. So as you can see, there are so many benefits of perpetuating the native Hawaiian language. I hope this presentation today has convinced you to support the idea of making Hawaiian language become a mandatory course in all Hawaii schools. Today, I talked about how Olelo Hawaii, or the Hawaiian language, became banned from the Hawaii public school system, the solution of making the Hawaiian language part of the Hawaii school system, and the benefits of perpetuating the Hawaiian language. So right now, I want everyone to raise their right hand and repeat after me. I, state your name, Jennifer Tolentino, promise to learn at least one Hawaiian word and its definition every day. I promise to do my best in using the word in my everyday conversations and teach others who are interested in learning the Hawaiian language. As a Kanaka living in Hawaii, it is my kuleana to make sure that the Hawaiian language and culture lives on for future generations. Congratulations, you have just taken the first step to becoming, you just took the first step towards making the Hawaiian language become part of our Hawaii schools. So I hope my presentation has given you a little more insight into the importance of making the Hawaiian language a mandatory course in our schools. The survival of the Hawaiian language is the key to the survival of the culture and to everything beautiful and spiritual about our islands. E ola ka olelo Hawaii. Mahalo.